cannot live in the starless midnight, which plagues humanity in the darkened crevice. Hate, darkened alleyways at midnight, where soap operatic devices play it on sheets of cardboard, caught by the wind and thrown under the tires of a passing vehicle, remote and confined and chained away, which hides within the folds of emotions, which nobody can bear to look into, the mirrors of the changing tides within the brick and mortar subdivisions, in the economic train wreck down the line and out the door, just as the big boss screams "you're fired," and a mistaken horn blows into the air as the farmer's market crashes, which removes the common need for good, white, the clear, pure depths of baby's soul, and teaches them that it's a dog-eat-dog world, and they better be careful and not trust anybody, and you can never really be happy because there's someone out there who's less fortunate than you. But in truth, unless you learn those things aren't true, and you can be happy, you can't make anybody else feel that way. Which takes our children and puts the guns in the hand and teaches them to kill, and that they must keep up with the narrow-minded escapades of falsetto wisdom and remote lessons hidden in the brainwashing stations, on parole, and in jail. Which steps onto the platform and fires the winner's shotgun. I read beautiful poetry on the subways just to hear the words echo, without sunlight, and create sunlight for themselves to be illuminated with. Do not be fooled into thinking that love is blind and that you are bound from loving your brothers and your sisters. Taxicabs float between the buildings, beating wings of iron bars and steely teeth, waiting to grab you up and put you back in place when you're trying to get away from. I stood with my hands in my pockets, praying for wisdom and holding onto a plastic ticket up against a brick wall, as steam from the buildings and cars in the street mingled with the cool night air. I looked out expectantly into the city, jungle of people, where everybody was wandering around, aimless and unsure of their destinies. Moving from the brick wall, I stepped off the curb and quietly crossed the street. Thoughts crossed my mind as I realized I didn't know where I was going either. Fear crept in. Where was I going? Where was I going? Where was I going? What was I to do? Why was I even standing here? What was the meaning to it all? A billboard selling some sort of masking paint lit up sinister upon the horizon. The cars around me honked, buzzed, senses on full alert, but not knowing anything. I stood confused amidst utter chaos. The cool night wrapped around me like a blanket, and I took a breath of fresh air. Breathing. My soul breathed, but still I didn't know which direction to take, which street was safe, which street I should step onto. Breathing. Movies playing out, and silhouettes across the bricks and garnered through the mist on the horizon. Dancing the streets without name, without game, and without fame. I noticed in the dusk a singular stole stampeding across the street and flinging the shopping bags into the sewer. Startling the sleeping nun sitting on the sidewalk, holding her face in her hands, removing the bad habits she once had, and letting her hair hang free. The dusk was surprising and sweet, and seemingly profound, and misunderstood in the misty crevices of the tortured night, and like sweet success, startled when found under the smooth silken stone in the middle of the forest. The glare of the street lamp reflected from the tops of the buildings were illuminating the lovers, were like candles floating near the lost ship at sea in the ocean. Standing alone, but connected. A helpless mother clasped the hands of two children while several more were toted behind her, not having enough money to take the taxi. I noticed the children lagged behind in the street, and their mother called them back to return to their safe home. I watched as they entered their tiny apartment complex, building blocks strewn in the front yard, and I smiled. They were home safe. The dark loomed like a monster in the streets, but I was not afraid. Peeking around the corner, I saw a man with one leg limping through the street, rhythmically stumbling over the boardwalk steps on the sidewalk, and a tear fell from his eye. The tear landed on the pavement and exploded outwards in the twilight like a star shattering into the night. I saw 1,000 crystals shatter. Many people died unjustly at that very moment, and a chill of sorrow passed through me, and like lightning into the sidewalk, jolting me awake. The sleeping bum 5 feet from me abruptly awoke, as if struck by lightning passing from me and clearing away his sleep-laden visions, and he asked me if I could spare a penny. I saw pure humanity in the lost soul in front of me, pure. And I emptied my shopping bags into his lap, telling him to take it all. He needed more than me. His smile illuminated the city. My heart pounded in my throat and beat with the vibes of humanity as a cloud passed through the misty-eyed buildings growing gray and stony towards the storming skyscrapers tall, tall, tall. Soul of the city. Peering through the darkness, I could not make my name out or see my face in the crowd of cowardly and desperate strangers that I always dreamed of being part of until I saw who they really were, the lost souls. Lost souls. Lost souls, and I knew it wasn't the place for me. They stood huddled in the darkness in the middle of the business street, where cars passed by 1,000,000 miles per hour, drunken and not looking and risking their lives to stand there and try to be part of a designated group. I stood under the streetlight, illuminated around the edges, and behind a thick but invisible barrier which protected me from the emotionless vehicles. Steely teeth and fear invoked, and the boombox rattle, 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 rattle. There was no place for me against the rough and tumble, beat up, beat down, dead, lonesome, empty streets. Lost souls filed out from the bars and gambling places, while others, lost in their pain and moaning about the state of the wall blocking their path through the streets, stumbled and fell. People grabbing onto the bricks of the buildings as the sidewalks around them fall down into the sewers, and they do everything they can to reach away from the bottle which threatened to slowly blind them, but still, they take what they can get. Those who steal from the pockets of the innocent passerby and then stand alone crying over the troubles and hurt pain, piano wood smashed, crushed under the feeling of a passing truck, whizzing through the tarry sandpits. Those who know nothing but the thievery and do nothing to stop the demolishment of most of their souls, but still a tiny speck, grain of sand in the middle of the ocean-fed depths remains and lives. But like the flower must be nurtured before it is too late. Too late. I could do nothing to help those lost souls if I too were one of them. A white dove, wearing the sign of Pisces, walked ahead of me and somehow guided me towards a golden storefront from where a street-front harmonica player played from an amplified cardboard box. Tune floated magically and somehow into my ears, where it traveled the English channels and hit the core of my emotions like a ship gently reaching land after an impossible journey in my outer visions which haunted me in my dreams. I stepped into a coffee shop, seeking something profound. It was midnight almost, and the streets were still so dark even after I stood in the spotlight, and I needed to be somewhere, but where should I go? I wondered through the night. The musician took the stage, and strumming his guitar, recited the sacred poetry. My ears came alive, and time froze. I heard everything in his song: love, hope, poetry, music, life, death, forgiveness, joy, sorrow, desolation, loneliness, darkness, light, fraud, lies, irony, freedom, peace. A spiritual experience, to say the least, and everything seemed light. I saw an eternity which I had been seeking for so long but never found, never grasped gently in my hands and held in my face gently, so gently. Never did I feel more connected, and I'd found a friend. Somebody finally really understood me, the depths and caverns of my emotions, and I was in love at the deepest level, who I could relate to more than anybody I'd ever noticed, and I was sure I would never find somebody more my twin. I listened with my soul. The circle was completed as I drummed the rhythm on the underside of the ebony table before me. My eyes noticed it was daylight out. My feet knew where I had to go. Suddenly, I knew where my destiny lay. I walked from the coffee shop and picked up the sacred guitar sitting in the golden case outside the door, which waiting for me all along I'd just never seen. Poetry came alive, 31st day of the 5th month. My eyes were awake, my mind was awake, my emotions were awake, a new world was awake. This is what I had been seeking. I was destined to discover myself as I watched my soul being born again. I strummed the guitar with the rhythm and beating of the heart in my chest, and suddenly everything was profound and possible. Raise me up. 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 Raise me up.